We've met Dr. אלע'שיאן. I'm in Israel now, and I just went out of the shelter after another missile attack, and I hear the jets in my sky. It seems that it is an Israeli-Iranian affair, but it's not. And you sit, in a different place, but you're part of the whole picture. And I wonder how the latest developments in the war between Israel and Iran, with America new involvement, how it is perceived from the Gulf, what are the concerns, or what are the interests of the people who live in the Gulf now and look at the new developments.
Well, thank you, Roy, for having me, and I'm just glad you're safe. I hope everyone's safe, and I hope genuinely this craziness and time finishes as soon as possible, because I think the region is going to uncharted territory, and it's also the region in itself is just going to I think it's just at its limits. We could no longer keep sustaining, I would say, these processes that have just kept the outstanding files unsolved. And I think that the more these outstanding files are unsolved, the more things spiral out of control. And nightmare scenario after nightmare scenario is just happening in front of our eyes. And we've been warning about this. Many people have been warning. And simply there's just an aspect of denial that many people just don't want to admit. And they just think, yeah, well, this massive issue or this simmering issue is going to sort itself out, and it won't. And it hasn't, and it gets bigger, and then these are the kind of things that we find ourselves in. So I hope you're safe. I hope everyone is safe, and I hope this is a juncture, not to politicize, but to address things at its very core. So I think, and I'll get to why I'm saying this, because I think from the region, many people are looking at this, and they assume that Saudi and others are jubilating. And that they're happy, and that they're secretly whispering to people, this is great stuff. This is very far from the truth. This is very, very far from the truth. This is nonsense. At times this is it's become very insulting in many ways, because I think people are just not willing to accept or listen to Saudis, or appreciate the Saudi and GCC and Gulf stance on this. And that we feel, I'll be very honest with you, whenever we're looking at missiles going to Israel, we always thought, Israel's airspace is impregnable. And it's a small, compact country with multi-layered air defense. I wonder if these missiles would have came our end, which they did before anyway.
Yeah.
And they, and so we're at the front line of this. And so that's why we're very anxious. We're not happy to see any of this. We're very, very anxious. And so I think this is the position that unfortunately many people don't want to admit. But I'm glad to be speaking with you guys to really articulate this. And so I think we're also wondering what, positioning ourselves for the future. But I'll let you ask the questions.
No, it's just continue what you're saying and elaborating on that. So you're saying it's not the situation you wish to be in. It's not a good reality. You're not, indirectly supports military actions against Iran, as maybe in Israel some may think, and you have your own strategic interests. But given the current situation, what would be the way out of it in the eyes of the Saudis, in the eyes of different maybe states in the Gulf, saying, look, this is the path from here to the future? How it is conceived, or what are the alternatives that you think is suggested by the Saudis?
Well, it's diplomacy, because that's what we've embarked on a few years ago. It has to be diplomacy, and it has to reach a level where there's trust, which there is nowhere near trust now. I think the fact that, everyone is talking about Iran. Of course, Iran is a regional neighbor and a regional security threat, but this is why we deal with it the way we did. Confronting it will lead to a forever war, because they have successfully complicated the landscape. And diplomacy is the way forward. Diplomacy is the way forward. I think this is why the Saudis were eager to have a nuclear deal between Saudi Arabia and the US. They wanted to make sure that, time and again you hear this from Saudis, that if there was a nuclear deal, it will reduce a massive security burden that the Saudis have. But now I think there is a fear that these strikes on Iran will probably accelerate a nuclear program, weaponization of it. And I think the Saudis, in my opinion, probably say we've been here before. We've seen how measures can be taken, but just does not change the situation fundamentally. Iran is weakened. Iran is severely weakened, but I think the Saudi posture is asking particular questions that others are not asking, which is what's next. There is no alternative. It doesn't seem like there's a government in waiting to just sweep in. The situation in Iran and the missile side, and this has been hindered significantly, but not eliminated. People assumed that the Iranian people will just simply rise up and take over, when in fact there's probably ample reports that there are rallying around the flag, and there are people that are also disgruntled by the regime. But just like, again, 1980, when they were invaded by Saddam Hussein, there were people disgruntled then, and then all of a sudden people kind of rallied around the flag. So I think for Saudi, they're not thinking next year, the year after. I think they're thinking 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. They've made the strategic decision that Iran is a neighbor that we're going to have to work with. And also the reason why this calculation, I mean, you could look at this and say, well, Donald Trump is 79. Netanyahu, the self-proclaimed peacemaker with a pacemaker, is 74, 75. MBS is 39. MBS is 39. In 20 years' time, he's going to be 59. I don't need an award. I don't need a Nobel Prize for math, but I could tell it's 59 is a spring chicken. When it comes to the age of people in as governors,
leadership positions.
Yeah, of course. And so they're thinking in these terms, and where if Iran begins to rebuild and rehabilitate itself, how will they be positioned? And I think this is why the Saudi-Iranian normalization and the Saudi posturing so far and what they've been saying and the distancing themselves from these operations it can play in its strategic interests in the future.
So many questions to ask you, but we don't have a lot of time. So I'm wondering several things. You'll decide how would you like to treat my questions now, because I'm intriguing regarding the possible role Saudi can play in the coming diplomatic efforts that will come at the end. What would be the role of Saudi Arabia in it, and what are the connections when you connect the dots, the different arena of conflict? You spoke about it. We have the war in Gaza and the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. We have regional instability in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, still in a process of rebuilding. When you connect all the dots together, who would lead such a new regional architecture? Who can lead and how it looks like this tapestry of reshaping the Middle East?
Well, I think when it comes to the immediate diplomacy, the Saudis will and others and the GCC will do what they're doing, but I think they will just try to communicate time and again to Iran and to the United States and to the international community to generate more, I would say, diplomatic consensus. That pressure is that, I think they would just say, listen, any more escalation is just not going to be good for anybody and not going to be good for the region. And I think this is why they're, one thing we're going to see them try to do, or at least offer, is mediation. They're going to try to do this mediation. They're going to try to leverage their relations with Donald Trump, which has been limited, in my opinion. I think he's been, more susceptible to working with Netanyahu than with the Saudis and others on this front, on matters of security. And by the way, this is, in my opinion, this is something that I think the Saudis will find very concerning, because in 2019, the Saudis were attacked, had their oil refineries attacked. And when they had their oil refineries attacked, when Iran or Iranian proxies, Ansar Allah Houthis, were attacked, there was nothing there. And now when there is an attack, and there is actually an attempt which is viewed by Saudi as destabilizing the region and destabilizing the nascent regional order that was beginning to build, Donald Trump jumped on the bandwagon. So I think, again, this is just another example that diplomacy, we're going to have to work together in the region. Now, who and this regional order, quite frankly, it's just very clear. It can't be one. No one can lead it, and that's the thing. It's a region where it's leaderless, in many ways, and I think that may be a blessing, because I think that means there's just going to have to be collective efforts. Now, I think from the region, people are beginning to see, wow, Israel is now becoming a regional hegemon, not a military. A military power, and probably many people won't be surprised, because that was they didn't see this side of Israel before, or haven't seen it in a while. But this then asks the question: is this going to make people want to cooperate or not want to cooperate? And quite frankly, not on these conditions. This is what I don't anticipate. I think there's a great deal of speculation that, because of this, I mean, I was in the US recently, and people were saying, these attacks were extraordinary, and all these Arab states are lining up to normalize relations with Israel. And I just, the reality is, I'll say an Arabic saying, a Saudi saying, كيف أصرفها? As in, how do you want me to cash it? As in, how do you want me to understand this? You know, with the occupation, with what's happening in the West Bank, with more in Syria, and now an effort to actually hinder a process that Saudis and the GCC were trying to recalibrate the region that was coming, you know, for their security. Hold on, how do you want me to cash this check? As in, how do you want me to understand this? This is going to be great for us to go work with Israel, or is this going to be a diktat coming from Israel? You know, or Netanyahu. Well, I don't want to say Israel because it's Netanyahu. I don't know. I don't know. I don't see an appetite to do this. And I just think, again, you know, normalization on against this backdrop for me is very distant and potentially politically suicidal, because if anybody wants to normalize relations while there is what's happening on the West Bank and in Gaza and at the you know at the backdrop of all that's been happening means there's some sort of submission, and I just don't see that happening at all.
So you succeeded to relate to the Saudi Arabia role in that will come, the diplomatic process at the end, and to connect the dots between what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank, in the region, and in the war between Israel and Iran, and actually raise the flag, saying, look, we need to work together in order to create a different tapestry in the region. We have to work together, and in order to do that, we have to solve several conflicts before we can achieve it, right? In the Palestinian arena, between Israel and Iran, and then we could move forward to better.
And let me just say this, Roy. I forgot to also to add this. This is not just a theoretical kind of a call. Mm-hmm. When Desert Storm happened, and Israel did not join the military campaign, or did not use military force to strike Iraq and complicate the international coalition in Saudi. Mm-hmm. This was perceived as cooperative in Saudi.
Yeah.
This was perceived, by the way, while quietly, but this was perceived as you know what, this is something they appreciated. And so I think this regional spirit is something that I think will bring everyone in the region together, including Israel. But the thing is, I don't think there is a regional spirit now coming. And that's why I think, while, by the way, as you know, the Shamir government didn't care about the international coalition that was there. The reason why they did it was for their own reasons. And you guys know this more than I would. But the Saudis understood it as that. And so this is, once there is a regional spirit to think about the prosperity of the region, this is where one could get working with the Saudis. Once there is talk about anti this axis or anti that axis, this is what Saudis will find anathema. And they just simply don't want to be caught in these positions and have their diplomatic, political capital being spent on trying to balance all these different things, and it's just, you know, it's just too costly for them. So that I just wanted to say that as well.
No, it's super important. We will have to end with an appetite for more. For example, how would look like the engagement of Iranian into the region, for example? How would we see it? I think so. We'll have to save something for our next talk. And I appreciate very much your willingness to share your thoughts and to approach the Israeli public with your insights. It is so important to expose them to the views from the Gulf, from the Saudi Arabia of what's happening, as to maybe push aside some maybe misunderstanding or expectation that are not real or not concrete. So thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
And just to let you know, I don't want to see this happening I don't want to see people running into shelters. I don't want to see people not have shelters when it comes to other places like in Gaza. I don't want to see people going in the street being, constantly being told to revolt and have people meddle with their social contract and psyche. We're all, and if I'm going to say this to Israeli people, we're all part of the same region. And we're gonna have to work together sooner or later, and the sooner we do that, the better. And thank you very much for your partnership in this, and I hope for better.
Thank you very much. As I said, I started with, we stopped looking for partners just within the political borders, and we understand that partners who are pro-peace are spread around the region, and we have, as you said, we have to work together in order to achieve this peace and stability we are so long for. So thank you very much.